We're back.
We're back.
We are back. And covered a little bit of it with Mr. Laird there, but I think you're passionate about baseball.
Yeah, and the Pirates.
Yeah, and so we didn't, obviously we do this every Monday, so last Monday night, was that game 4?
Yeah, I thought for sure we'd be talking about Pirates in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So we were heading into game 4. It was being played right here. I thought for sure the Pirates would win that game. I thought that Waka would fold under the pressure. Was I wrong about that?
Yeah, see, I think people saw what happened with the Cueto chant and all that, and they thought, this rookie's going to collapse. Yeah. And is that great pitching, or is it did the Pirates finally their lack of offense?
No, it was great.
Show
pitching.
up.
Walker's
obviously
phenomenal.
It was great pitching. But
great pitching.
Pitching, it's a lot easier to have great pitching against weak offense than it is against. I'm just saying, is that how should it be looked at? Should it be looked at like the Pirates need offensive help, or that nobody was going to hit that kid that night?
It's great pitching. Nobody's going to hit him. Ask the Dodgers.
Yeah.
About the Cardinals.
Well,
pitching.
he had pitched 8 2/3 hitless this game before that.
I mean, you know what? We can talk about the Cardinals. And listen, the Cardinals. The Cardinals, you and I could have an argument about whether that's a major market. It's not. It's the same market size as ours.
It's a top 10 revenue market. That's what it is.
But it's the same market size as us,
yeah,
TV-wise.
But it's a top 10 revenue.
But it's a well-run franchise. It has a lot of history.
Yeah.
It sells out a lot, and so they have a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
And listen, they do a lot of these guys that are great players for them, like a David Freese, were obtained in trades because they spend money. So I don't want to say all their guys are homegrown, but Michael Walker's a draft pick, by the way, who was drafted last year.
But the other story about that is that I've been when people here have been focusing so much on Cole and Tyone. The Pirates are going to be good. The Pirates are going to be good because they have these two guys coming up. Well, while the Pirates have Cole and Tyone, the Cardinals are over there with Waka and 6 guys they had in their bullpen this year. So other teams have prospects too,
right? And
they got beat by one.
Correct.
And again, two pretty good rookies pitched in that series.
Waka was drafted last year. Last year
he didn't spend 7 years in their minor league system.
He spent like 4 months.
And he's a college kid.
Right. Last year he was drafted, okay? So Jamison Tyne, who is not a college kid.
No, high school.
Jamison Tyne is ready to come up and pitch.
Right.
He's ready. And he should be in the rotation, unless he bombs out in the spring. He should be in the rotation next year.
Cole was their leading pitcher in the spring. Where'd he end up?
Back in the minors.
Yeah, that's where.
And this Polanco, who's just ripping up minors, should absolutely be up here too. And there's your other answer in the outfield. But again, I'm going to give the Pirates the benefit of the doubt. They can play that game and keep them down there, but they need to sign Burnett and Bird or bring somebody in other than what they've got in their roster. So it's going to be an interesting offseason.
But the Tyone thing. If this team came within, how many games did they end up finishing out of first place?
Was it 3?
I don't know. Whatever it was.
2 or 3.
If you go into the season knowing it, it's not going to change that much next year.
We could rip the Pirates for not having Cole in the roster the whole year. It absolutely could.
But next year, the Reds and the Cardinals are still going to be the Reds and the Cardinals. And if you assume the Pirates are going to win 90-plus games next year, which is a pretty strong assumption to make, but if you do assume that, 94 wasn't enough to win the division this year. So you're going to keep Tyone in the minor leagues. If I understand keeping him in the minor leagues, only if you don't think he's ready to pitch in the big leagues yet. But if you keep him, we go through this whole thing again where they keep him in the minor leagues so that he's going to be able to still be around 8 years from now. When you have a chance to win a division championship, you bring him up. If he's the best pitcher and he's going to come up here and help you not have to spend money on A.J. Burnett and therefore be able to spend it on maybe somebody with a bat, then you bring him up. And should they be able to look at when they're formulating their roster this year and looking at their team for next year, do they look at and say Tyone is ready to be? When we come north next year, he's in our rotation.
Yes.
Or do they say, well, he might be, but we can't. We're not bringing him up till June 12th.
I'm going to go back to the 50s, and I wasn't even born, but I know enough about the history of baseball in this town, especially when Roberto Clemente. When they saw Roberto Clemente, they said, we're not going to get this guy seasoned in the minors. He's coming up here and playing. Now, he didn't play that great when he came up.
No, he hit 250.
Yeah, he didn't play. But you know what? He was up here playing because in those days it was the reserve clause and there wasn't anything called arbitration. So when you had Roberto Clemente and you had Al Kaline, who was playing with the Tigers when he was 18.
Right.
Okay, you just brought these Bob Gibson, Sandy Koufax, who struggled a lot.
Mickey Mantle was about 20.
Mickey Mantle was 19. 20. Okay, Sandy Koufax. Go back and look at Sandy Koufax's baseball
Not
cards
good.
in the 50s. They were not good. Okay, this kid came up in 56. He couldn't throw strikes. He only threw about 67 innings because he walked everybody. But he was up here learning the ropes. Okay, and also they needed a kid who could throw 100 miles an hour just for a couple innings now and then. But he wasn't a big part of those Dodgers teams winning in the 50s. So there's none. If we go back to the 50s, there's no question that Tyon and Polanco are playing next year. None.
Right.
None. Polanco is penciled in right field, and Tyon is the number 2 starter behind Garrett Cole. That's what's going on next year.
Well,
so
that's my question. Is that the way it's going to be, though?
Well, you look at
when the Pirates are they're going to have their meetings. They've had them already. Okay, our season's over. What about for who are we going to sign of our free agents who are available? Who's out there for us to get? And when you do that, you say if they make a decision on Burnett, okay, throwing a lot of money at him. Well, doesn't that decision have to be preceded by a long discussion about whether Tyon's going to be here on opening day?
Well, they were already saying Tyon's not going to be here opening day.
Is it because they don't think he can pitch, or because it's a stupid rule?
They're saying the same old thing they said about Cole, which was a bunch of baloney, that he needs to get more seasoning.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But here's the bottom line. I'm not going to – it's just the way of the world with the Pirates these days. It's not the way of the world with the Tampa Bay Rays, and it's not the way of the world with the St. Louis Cardinals. However, the Pirates have viable options. They do, other than those two guys. They can spend the money and re-sign Marlon Byrd, which they very well may do, and they can re-sign A.J. Burnett, and then they've got themselves some leeway to keep those guys down. But if they don't get a right field replacement, and they don't get a frontline starting pitcher replacement, that they need to be ripped to shreds in this offseason. But there's a lot of time before we start ripping them, because you got to go all the way through the middle of December.
Can the team, as it's presently constructed, would you be confident they can win 90-plus games?
Yes, if Tyon and Polanco are up here. Yes. I don't think.
What if they're not?
Then they better bring back a lock. I'm saying not a lock. They better bring back a Burnett and a Bird, so you're not relying on a lock and a G.I. Jones and a Gabby Sanchez.